ACG's welcome. So glad that you've been able to gather again today. My name is Pastor Colin, and we're starting a brand new series today. We are week 1 into our new series called The New Normal. Now, it's no secret that our world has just been turned upside down here in the last few months, and it seems like we're all trying to recalibrate, trying to find our way, and in many ways, we've tried to embrace, or been forced to embrace even, a new normal. Now, that also means some things for us here at BT Church. It means our schedules have changed, which, by the way, if you're not already following our social media accounts or staying up to date, or you're trying to stay up to date, make sure that you hit us up at bt.church, or you can download our BT Church app and have access to that information too. But still, here's the reality, right? New normal at this point is not even just a luxury, it's a necessity. Things have been so turned around that we've just been forced to figure out new ways to do life and figure out new ways to do church and new ways for us to navigate what it means to be a family. And basically everything's changed. And the new normal is an invitation for us to really kind of center our hearts on what God is doing. And before we get into all of that, one of the things that we can really kind of rest in is just knowing that new normal requires new rhythms. And new rhythms, I believe, will be determined by a new focus. Now, our passage today comes out of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 10. That's where the sermon was, but I want to camp out in verse 1 today. And we're going to see something that Pastor Chris, I think, really, he challenged us with verses 6 through 8, but I think we also see it here with verse 1. He challenged us to make sure that we're confident in our future. Now, if we're talking about new normals requiring new rhythms and new rhythms being determined by new focuses, what I'd like us to say is that we need to focus on the future. Now, that doesn't mean that we sidestep our present realities or our present obligations or that's what I'm looking for, not obligations, but the things that we have the privilege to do. But Paul gives us a really unique illustration, I think, that puts some things into context for us. He says, "For we know that if our earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal dwelling in the heavens, not made with human hands." Now, at first glance, it seems like, what are we talking about? New rhythms and tents and buildings for eternity? What is this? But in the context of what we see happening here, what Paul is talking about specifically is our future after death. Now, talking about death isn't one of the things that we like to do, because death is heavy. Talking about death seems morbid. It seems like there's not a lot of hope in death for us a lot of times. But what Paul does for us is, as he brings in this conversation, he gives us this dark but honest reality. He tells us that, as we've heard, death becomes us all. But he refuses to let us believe that though death becomes us all, that there isn't some kind of hope. And so though he comes to us with this dark but honest reality of death and dying, he also allows us to position ourselves to see the eclipse of the brightness of the all-surpassing power of God. Right? So though death becomes us all, as believers, we must embrace the power of God that is at work in the dying and is fully present in the fullness of our death. You see, in that, I think there's this powerful invitation to view our lives today in light of God's power that's been displayed on the cross and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So though death becomes us, we can rest assured that in Christ, death becomes a doorway into eternity with God. And so the challenge for us today, CGs, is to evaluate our lives through that lens. Where is our focus? Are we getting captured in the rhythms of the hustle of the American dream, or trying to just do the things that we feel like we need to do to make the next step and progress in our lives on the social order or whatever it is that we feel like we need to do? Right? Because what your focus is on is going to determine your new rhythms. And your new rhythms are going to set for you a pace of a new normal. Now, for us as believers, we need to set our new normal with eternity in mind. So CGs, as you gather, as you pray, as you discuss these things, I pray that God would speak to you, that he would guide your steps, and that you'd be encouraged in all things. We're always praying for you, CGs. I pray that today is an amazing day for you. We'll see you next week.